Hello everyone, my name is Arman Sidana and I will be your trainer throughout this course. Before starting, I would like to give a brief about myself, and I am a certified ethical hacker, a ISA, a CSFPC, and I have done my CISA from US Department of Homeland Security. Besides this, I am the guest lecturer at many educational institutions, and I am currently mentoring the students from three basically institutions, and I have 3+ years of experience, and I worked as a cybersecurity analyst, engineer, VAPT expert, and hold the managerial ranks. Currently, I have my own company named Nexus Security. We basically excel in ransomware attacks and their mitigation, along with website testing and obvious training students and professionals in the field of cybersecurity. So, throughout this course, we will be learning a lot how a website works. Like, I will be discussing CVSS and priority levels, OWASP, and different vulnerabilities, how to basically approach them, how to hunt big. This course will make you from a noob to a pro and a professional bug hunter. So just grab your seats and get ready. Thank you. For contacting with me, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You have to just write Arman Sedana, or you can contact me through the Udemy support as well. And you can contact me from my mail as well. That's sedanarman2003 @gmail.com. So we will start the journey. Just be consistent, be patient on to learning things, and I promise by the end of this course, you will exit as a professional bug hunter. All the best for your journey, and hope you guys hunt big. Thank you. So for downloading Burpsuit, you have to write download Burpsuit, right? Then you need to go to the portstrigger.net, which is the official owners of the Burpsuit. There are two versions of Burpsuit. One is the community one, and the other one is the professional one. I will teach you whole course through the community version so that you can access the course easily and you have the access to right softwares. By entering your email, you have to download Burpsuit and click on download. After clicking on it, you will get to this page where you have to choose the Burpsuit Community Edition or the Burpsuit Professional Edition. Then you have to choose your architecture. My is Mac OS Intel, and you have to click on download. Once you get professional into things, then you can purchase the Burpsuit Professional as well and get the hacking, because the speed of Burpsuit Professional is much more than the Community Edition one, right? And once it will get downloaded, you have to extract it, and I have already done it. And let me search for my Burpsuit. Yeah, so this is the Burpsuit Community Edition. So in the next video, we will learn how to configure it with your Firefox. So once you have your Burpsuit installed, what you need to do is you have to configure this Burpsuit with your Firefox. You can either configure it with your Chrome, but I would prefer configuring it with the Firefox because Chrome blocks some things automatically. So this is the proxy listeners. It listens through the 127.0.0.1 and the port number is 8080. Like it, these are the proxy listeners. So how we need to configure it with the burp, and we will go on to the settings of Firefox. Then we will go to the settings, and I would write XY, right? After doing this, go to the settings and choose manual proxy. Choose the HTTP proxy to be 127.0.0.1 and the port as 8080, and check this thing as this proxy for HTTPS, and you can click on OK. See, our manual proxy is configured, so our burp is configured with the Firefox. Unless and until you open your Burpsuit, your Firefox won't run or won't search for anything. And how we need to get the CA certificate, because without a CA certificate we won't be able to do anything. You have to download the CA certificate, right? Like this one. Then you need to go to the settings, you need to go to the certificates and view certificates, then onto the authentication decisions or the authorities. you have to import that certificate, one which we downloaded, CACETR open, and this says this certificate is already installed as a certificate authority, as I have already done it, and you have to click on OK. So our burp is successfully configured with our Firefox. Let me test it. I would search here anything. Let's say I write here Facebook, and I turn the intercept as on. Then I would click enter and see it started intercepting the traffic. We will pass this on. So in this manner we can successfully integrate our Firefox with the burp. There are other ways of doing it, but this is the most easiest one. In this session, we will have a discussion about the brief how burp suite works. So this is the intercept tab. When we click on proxy, then go to the intercept section. Here you can intercept all the traffic. Let's say, let me go to a test website, testphp.vulnerweb.com. Got it? Once I refresh this page, I turn the intercept is on, I refresh this page. So there are two options you can do. Either you can forward this request, that means you send this request to the web server, or you can drop this. When I forward this, the website is successfully reloaded. And what in case I dropped this request, then it would give an error. See, request was dropped by the user. So this is how forward and drop feature works. Let me refresh it again. This gives me a request. I have other things to do. Let's say I can take this to intruder, repeater, sequencer, comparer, decoder, or you can just copy URL. These all functionings we will discuss in the later sections. And then it comes to the part of HTTP history. HTTP history basically provides you with all the details of the HTTP request which passed from the burp to the web server. For example, I opened this website testphp.vulnerweb.com. So see, it has all the traffic of it. If I would have performed some functions onto it, it would have logged all the things, all the HTTP requests onto it. And intruder tab is basically for making a mask number of requests in any way. It can be brute force things, it can be null payloads. Repeater is for studying a particular request. Let me give you an example. Let's say I intercept this request on saying XSS go. See, I want to let's say I want to analyze this request. I would intercept off and I would go to repeater. So I want to see how this request basically works. On passing this request, I get this response, and I want to see in the response whether it says XSS or not. Yes, it says XSS. So repeater is used for more analyzing of that particular HTTP request. So this is the basic functioning of the burp suite. With the coming sections of the video, you will get to know how a website actually works and how we can use the burp suite to do a variety of vulnerability assessment. Thank you. So in this section, we are gonna talk about various types of websites. The first one is answers and questions website, like Pinterest or something, where you can post your questions and you get answers in response. The other one is educational websites, which provide subscription for various courses. Then the other is community forums, where you have a topic of discussion and you can give your viewpoints onto it. Then the other one is online payments, like the payment gateways, PayPal, Payeer, right, Razorpay. Then it comes to the news websites, which give us the headlines of what events are happening in the nation as well as the across the globe. Then it comes to job boarding websites, Indeed, Fiverr, and a lot more. Then it comes to entertainment websites, Hotstar, Netflix, Disney. Then it comes to business websites, where you can crack business deals onto. Then the other one is blog website, where you can blog about different topics. It can be travel, tech, food, anything you like. Then the last one is e-commerce website. The purpose of me about discussing these websites is to get you familiar with all the concepts and to build a hacker mentality in you guys. Let me explain in a very simple way, the level of risk onto this e-commerce website wouldn't be same as a news website. For example, you can do price tampering, two-factor authentication bypass onto this e-commerce website and harm the company in a very bad manner. But let's take the case of a news website. You can't do much in this news website. You can't do them a monetary loss or something. So the approach of all these websites are very different because the content they deliver, the options we have, the interfaces we have differ from website to website. So for making a hacker mentality, you have to become aware of a word risk and how you need to minimize that and how you need to approach that risk so you can hunt big and think big. Some people think that all websites are the same and the level of priorities for all the websites would be same. Like you can get a free subscription by hacking or well, like doing finding a bug onto this entertainment website that won't be that much like harmful. But what in case you get a secret file of a business deal that could cause a drastic damage to the company's reputation as well as future prospects? So think wisely how the priority changes from company to company, website to website, and what exactly they are engaged into. So in the other section, we would know how a website works. I will tell you how the website works. This will be done with taking the help of a very illustrative example. Let's assume this is us. We want to get some information or retrieve some information from this particular server. We would initiate a HTTP request. The server would accept it and send a HTTP response in the respect of this HTTP request. This information can be transferred over different protocols, but basically and most primarily used protocols for the internet transmission is TCP/IP protocol. This all information gets interchanged by using the World Wide Web or the internet, right? There are 65,535 ports over which different protocols run. Right? The HTTP is over 80, HTTPS 443, and there are various other protocols like TCP, IP, UDP, SSH, and a lot. So the basic functioning of the request and the response method remains the same. In the next video, we will study about what are the different status codes we get in response of the HTTP request. Thank you. In the previous video, we read about what is an HTTP request, how it works, and what response it actually gives. So, on passing a HTTP request, the response from the web server can be of basically five major types. The 1XX means the 100 series belongs to the informational status codes. The 2XX series represents the success or validation of the HTTP request. 300 series represents the redirection of the website. 400 series denotes the client error, and 500 series denotes the server error. We will read more about this in this example. Let's say the status code is 200. That means it says OK. Your HTTP request is accepted and the response is delivered. 201 stands for a user or anything is created. 301 stands for moved permanently, which is a redirection status code. 304 stands for a non modified request. 400 stands for a bad request. 401 stands for an unauthorized access. When you are trying to get access of something you are not the owner of. 403 means you are forbidden to some web page or some a particular directory. 404 stands for the web page you entered does not exist or not found. 422 stands for unprocessable entry, मतलब जो आपने entry दी है it's non-processable. 500 stands for internal server error. The server is facing some error. 505 stands for HTTP version not supported. There are multiple reasons behind it. It can be outdated, corrupt, or anything. So, this was the lecture about HTTP status codes. Hope you understand. Thank you. I will tell you how the website works. This will be done with taking the help of a very illustrative example. Let's assume this is us. We want to get some information or retrieve some information from this particular server. We would initiate a HTTP request. The server would accept it and send a HTTP response in the respect of this HTTP request. This information can be transferred over different protocols, but basically and most primarily used protocols for the internet transmission is TCP/IP protocol. This all information gets interchanged by using the World Wide Web or the internet, right? There are 65,535 ports over which different protocols run. Right, the HTTP is over 80, HTTPS 443, and there are various other protocols like TCP, IP, UDP, SSH, and a lot. So the basic functioning of the request and the response method remains the same. In the next video, we will study about what are the different status codes we get in response of the HTTP request. Thank you. So, OWASP stands for Open Web Application Security Project. It is a non-profit organization aiming at improving the software security. This organization basically functions as the guide of bug hunters. Every session it gives a list of most common vulnerabilities which could be found over a web application according to their priority levels and the severities and the occurrence over of them over a web application. All right, the list which it gives or releases out is known as the OWASP Top 10 list. For many past years, it has been giving the list out for helping the bug hunters to hunt bugs into the websites and defining what area of control or what area of risk those vulnerabilities have and what impact they exactly have over a web application. In the next video, we will compare two OWASP lists and know about the different vulnerabilities. Thank you. So in this particular module, we will be comparing two OWASP lists, which is of 2017 and of 2021. So firstly, we will start with the OWASP of 2017 and then we will go to the 2021 and then we will do a comparison. A1 means the high level of priority it has on the OWASP list. Injection stands for when we inject some malicious payloads onto a web page. Then the second comes the broken authentication where we can authenticate things which we are not permitted to do. The third one is sensitive data exposures where we can retrieve a file or something which is sensitive from the company's point of view. Then it comes the XML external entities, broken access control. This is a very wider term which contains a lot of vulnerabilities like authorization, authentication, 2FA and everything. Then it comes to security misconfiguration. It stands for the term where the misconfigurations on the server or the website can lead to a security breach. Then it comes to the most famous cross-site scripting, XSS, insecure deserialization, and using components with known vulnerabilities. This means when a bug hunter comes to know about any outdated versions, it uses the components with known vulnerabilities to exploit a system. Insufficient logging and monitoring by the blue team of that particular web application. Then it comes to the 2021 list, which is again the BAC, the priority level is risen to the 1, and then it comes to cryptographic failures where the encryption and decryption of data is not that accurate. Then it comes to injection, insecure design, like the designing of the network or the web application is not appropriate as per the standards. Security misconfiguration remains the same. vulnerable and outdated components, which I told you exactly, using components with known vulnerabilities. Then identification and authentication failures, which comes from the broken authentication phase. Software and data integrity failures. Integrity stands for that the intactness of the data is not maintained. Then it comes to security logging and monitoring failures. Then it comes to the server side request forgery. So these are two OWASP lists, and we compared them. The priority levels of many vulnerabilities have been changed. In the due course, we will learn about the most famous and the highly rewarding vulnerabilities along with their meanings and the practical examples. So let's start. The CVSS stands for Common Vulnerability Scoring System. It is a scoring system which ranks the vulnerabilities according to their severity. It is basically composed of three metrics, which is base, temporal, environment, and according to which the CVSS score is decided. Firstly, start with the basic metrics group. Exploitability metrics: what is the attack vector, what is the attack complexity, the privileges required, the user interaction, and the scope. Scope means on which particular group it impacts on. Then it comes to the impact metrics: compatibility impact, integrity impact, availability, that how it could affect the normal functioning of that particular website. Then it comes to temporal metric group. It comes the exploit code maturity, remediation level, report confidence. Okay, then it comes to environment. Then it consists of confidentiality requirement, the integrity requirement, the availability requirement, and the modified base metrics. Companies pay you according to the CVSS scores, and the triage reports are marked according to this CVSS scores, which stands for Common Vulnerability Scoring System. So there are two bases of CVS. One is CVSS 2.0 and the other is 3.0. The bugs which are of low priority are marked as the CVSS score of 0.0 to 3.9. The medium ones come under 4.0 to 6.9. The high ones are 7.0 to 10.1. The CBSS version 3.0 ratings are as follows. Different bugs or vulnerabilities come under different CVSS or priority levels. In the world of bug hunting, when you will discover the bug bounty programs, there are five types of priority levels starting from P1 to P5. I will explain the purpose of it in a very simple way. P1 bugs are on high priority and they have a high impact, right? The P2 bugs can be of high priority and medium impact, and they can be of medium priority and high impact. So, in a very easy sense, you can understand as the priority level decreases from P1 to P5, their impact also decreases because the companies need to resolve these bugs faster than these bugs. So, obviously, the bounty amounts of a P5 bug would be very less as compared to P1 bugs. But the P1 and P2 bugs are very difficult to find. P5 bugs are excluded from the bug bounty programs because they are informational bugs. Then it comes to P4, which can contain some sort of security misconfigurations, then XSS, then CSRFs, SSRFs, remote code executions, full account takeovers. So, this is the hierarchy of priority levels. Thank you. So, our first and the most common vulnerability is XSS, which stands for cross-site scripting. Let me tell you how cross-site scripting works. The hacker injects a trusted website with some malicious script. The victim visits the trusted website and triggers malicious script. Victims' browsers execute malicious script and unknowingly forward desired information. Cross-site scripting is using the website interface to get the victim information by injecting malicious payloads. There are three types of XSS, which is reflected, stored, and DOM based XSS. Reflected XSS is a type of XSS when the malicious script is reflected onto the web page itself, and the hacker can inject any malicious payload onto that particular thing to get the user cookie. Stored XSS is basically referring to when the hacker injects a malicious payload onto the victim's server or the website server and get any desirable information out of that without using any phishing or social engineering methods. The last one is DOM based XSS, which is a bit of tricky. So let me explain it with the help of an example. Firstly, the attacker crafts a URL containing the malicious string and sends it to the victim, right? Then the victim opens the link with the malicious URL from the website. Then the website gives it the request which does not contain the malicious string, right? Till here the process is neutral. Then the browser executes the legitimate script inside the response received from this particular website, causing the malicious script sent by this hacker to the user, and the user is hacked. So this is DOM based XSS. You can basically call it a stealth XSS, where the direct hacking is not done without the website being known that the hacking is done. All the bad stuff is done by the hacker to the user end, and this website is just a way of doing it. Hope you understand it. In the next module we will learn how to hunt for XSS. In this particular lab, we will be hunting for the reflected XSS onto a web page. This is a testing platform named Portswigger where we will be looking for the reflected XSS. Before starting, I will tell you the most particular places where you can hunt for XSS. They can be search boxes, comment sections, forums, chatbots, or anything which requires an input from you. My recommendation onto this bug hunting journey would be you have to clear your HTTP history. This allows you to do your penetration testing in a much efficient way. Let me put something into this search box. Let's say I type in hello. My hello is reflected back to me. That means there might be a chance of reflected XSS. Going to the HTTP history, we see that when we provided a hello onto this string, it gives me back a response saying hello, which is prominent from here. So for testing the reflected XSS, we will inject a malicious payload which is script alert script tag close, which is the most basic HTML code for testing reflected XSS. When I would click on search, it gives me a pop-up saying 1. So this is an example of reflected XSS. You can report it to companies if you find it anywhere. In this lab, we will be practicing stored XSS. As I have already told, stored XSS is very different from reflected XSS because the server takes response from us and the malicious payload goes back to the server and it's executed there. Thus, it's executing onto the backend. So this is a website where we have to perform the stored XSS. Let's click on the view post option, as there is no comment box out here, so we have to identify the place where we can execute things. Scrolling downwards, we can see a number of people who have put on their comments. So when we put a comment in here, this comment gets stored on the system server and gets reflected here. So this can be a form of stored XSS. What we will do, we will inject the malicious payload in the comment section saying alert 1 script tag close and giving my name as Arman and my email and website as ABCD, and then post the comment. It says give us a requested format. So we will give it abc.com. What exactly it is requiring, I guess this. Yeah. So when we did this, the lab is solved. How we came to know that this lab is solved, when we will come back to the blog, it gives me an XSS because we injected a malicious payload on the system server and we did the stored XSS. The priority level of stored XSS is much higher than the reflected XSS, as we can tamper the request of the server by using this. Thank you. In this illustration, we will hunt for XSS. So we see a dialog box, we will enter hello here and we will click on search, right? So on giving a search, it doesn't give me an XSS. Don't go on to this thing. This says solved. As I have already solved this lab, it says hello, but our hello is reflecting. So as the previous video, we will try to inject a HTML payload. This dialog box makes our HTML payload a text. Let's see how this happened. For knowing this, we will right click on the web page, go to the view page source, then we will do Ctrl F and search for alert 1. It basically concatenated my greater than less than signs and turned my payload into a string. This usually happens when the developers of the website are smart and they know that any hacker can try to do the XSS. In these scenarios, we will change our payload. We will change our payload to this. This stands for we are closing the predetermined HTML query on the backend and giving it a new query of on loading the SVG file and giving an alert as one. This is an example of DOM XSS. So we will click on search and see the pop-up is done. So we have to craft custom queries in order to do XSS. Now the question arises, where can you learn these things to craft a custom HTML query for the XSS to run? So there is a website known as prompt.ml which could help you practice the XSS techniques. So type in hello and enter the input as hello1. This shows you how the backend would interpret your query. So we will run a basic HTML script here to see how the backend would react. Script alert 1 and script tag close. Script tag close. And it doesn't give me a output because this particular value made my string a random text. What I would do is I would close this first. Let me explain you how I did. See, this was a HTML query which was starting from here. For making it an ending, I again put a colon and the greater than sign to close it. On doing this, it from this part it starts a new HTML query which helps us to run the command. So the first part is solved. Let's move on to the other part. So the other website is loading or the other task is loading. So we will do the same thing. We will write hello and this time there are no HTML tags, rather it says an article. So we will craft a custom query of an SVJ onload. But this time also it doesn't execute. See, it doesn't execute. So you can practice things here, but to overcome this query, what you need to do is you need to use your verb suite. Let me tell you how. Let's take an example of test.php.vulnweb.com. We type in hello out here and let me capture its response. I turned the intercept on and my burp suite and Firefox are configured together. When I clicked on go, It intercepted the response. For further studying it, I take it to repeater and intercept off. So let me make it big. So on passing a search for hello, it says me when I search for hello in the response, it says hello. So how we know that a particular HTML code would work here for the XSS? There is an automation technique of doing that. Once you get a reflection of an XSS in your response, you can automate the process. You can send this query to the intruder. You need to clear all the pre-specified tags it contains. You have to click clear, and you want to inject your payload onto this particular thing, so you have to double click on it and click on add. Now you have to click on payloads, and you want to choose a payload list you need to execute. I would click on load, and I have a pre-specified list of XSS. Let me search for it. Or if you don't have, let's say, see, I have a list of XSS payloads. These are hundreds of XSS payloads. You can get this list from anywhere on the internet, and let me tell you how you can get it. You can simply write XSS payloads list, and you can write GitHub. You can download the payload list from here. On running this attack, and this would give a status code of 200. Always remember, if the code is executed, the length of all other requests would be greater than the first request, which is a null payload. The length of this request is 4991, and if our code is successfully executed, the length would be greater. So we will sort this thing. We will double click on it and we will sort. See, the length of everything is much bigger than the null query. Let's take this example. I want to see its response. I would right click here and I would say request in show response in browser. I would copy and I would paste it. See, it's loading. So in this manner, you can inject a number of payloads, and if it's working, the length would be greater than the null payload. So this was all for XSS. Hope you understand. So CSRF stands for cross-site request forgery attack. An attacker sends something to victim, the victim provides its cookies, and the CSRF is done. Let me explain it to you guys with a very interesting example. Suppose this is a website www.abcanybank.com. The attacker forges a request of a fund transfer from this website and sends it in with the help of a hyperlink and embeds the malicious request onto a very luring page. Getting lured by this page, the website unintentionally initiates a request which goes to the website, and the bank initiates a transaction and transfer the funds from the visitor's account to the account of an attacker. Let us take another example. Consider this website to be a social media website, anydesk.com, okay, or any other website, let's say Facebook or any other website. The my profile page contains a lot of information of like email ID, the passwords, and sometimes the my profile page allows you to change the email ID, and the email ID is the only thing you can use the website forgot password functionality with that. The attacker forges a request to change the email ID of a particular account. He sends the link to the visitor clicks on it, the email ID registered onto that particular account gets changed, resulting to full account takeover in some cases. Let me show you live POC how it's exactly done. So this is a website. You can see my name. The first name is Hacker and the last name is Yovan. I crafted a response. I have already crafted a response out here. Let me open it and see. You can see the response of the update account info, and I want the first name to be you are hacked. In the same manner, you can change the profile settings such as email, mobile number by using this same matter. This is a HTML response. I opened it in the browser and the hacker won't send you this in a very simple way. He would embed this submit button under very luring advertisements or any stuff that can trick you into. So once I clicked on submit, and the hacker won't let you see this thing because he don't want you to see that any information has been changed. And on going to the website, when we refresh it, we get the first name as you are hacker, you are hacked. So this is an example of CSRF vulnerability. Hope you guys understand. In the next illustration we will see how we can hunt for CSRF. In this illustration, we will be seeing how the CSRF attacks are performed. Consider this as a normal website. We will go to the My Account page. We will go to the My Account page and open the exploit server in another tab. So we have the default username and password of this website, right? So we will clear the HTTP history before so that we can see things. So I write the username as Veena, the password as Peter, and I clicked on login. So as I've already told you, for the CSRF vulnerability to work, we have to find a column which updates the info or initiates some transaction or initiates a response from the web server. So before testing this thing, I would clear everything out here so that we can see the response which forces the web server to do the change. I want the email to be changed to mine. See, I clicked on update email and it's done. And this is a list of HTTP history it followed for the mail to be changed. This is a post request. If you are using the professional burp suite, you can right click on it and you might have like engagement tools and you can generate the CSRF POC. If you are using a community one, you can simply copy this thing. You can copy this thing and go to the browser. You can write CSRF POC generator. Okay. On doing this, there would be a website known as tools.nanosec, right? I use this one. You paste this request out here and generate the POC form. It generated a POC form for me, and I want the victim which I want to deliver the email to. I want the victim email address to be changed. I would write here Arman Sedana. I want the victim's email ID to be changed to this. Okay, we will copy this response. Now, this is not a real life scenario considering it as our email system, right? Considering this as our email system, we want to send this particular HTML query to our victim. Before delivering it to the victim, what we will do is we will store it and test whether it's working or not. We stored it and we will click on view exploit. On viewing the exploit, we can click on submit. Okay. On refreshing it, we know that the exploit is working. Now what we will do is we will go to the exploit server and paste our crafted response, it's already in here, and deliver the exploit to victim. When the victim clicks on the exploit, his or her account will be hacked, right? His or her account will be hacked. This is how a CSRF is done. Let me show you how the victim account will be hacked. Let's say, let me store it into a file. That is Sublime Text, and I want to change the victim email address to hello123 at the rate gmail.com. So this is the crafted response. I will save this as an HTML file onto my desktop and click on save, right? So when I would take that HTML file onto my browser and when I would click on submit, it has run and you can see the email is changed. This is how a CSRF attack would exploit the email address of your victim. Thank you. So, the method we previously discussed about CSRF was a very basic method, but websites nowadays aren't that simple. So, we will do an advanced CSRF attack where the token validation depends upon the request method. We will supply the default credentials of this website and I will click on login, right? So before doing any changes to the website or updating my email, I want the HTTP history to be clear. I would change the mail and update email. The website is doing its work and yeah, the email is updated. Now there is only one request which contains parameter, so I would see it. So for further studying it, I would take this request to repeater. The earlier request we saw there was no CSRF token out here to prevent it from CSRF attacks. But in this case, we have a CSRF token. On giving this request back again, it gives me a 302 found. Okay, it gives me a 302 found. On moving to redirection, it doesn't give me anything, right? The username remains same. Now I will tell you how we can test this thing. Let's go to the HTTP history again, and the same token can't be used twice, so I would try to make some change into this token, and on clicking send it gives me an error which says invalid CSRF token. We know that a particular CSRF token depends to a particular account. We don't know the CSRF token of our victim account. Without this token, the website won't update anything onto the victim side. So we will change, this is a post based request, we will change the request method. We will change it to get, right? The request method is changed from post to get, and on doing this, we will click on send. As soon as we change the request method, it gives me a 302 which stands for redirection, which means the CSRF tokens are not further recognized. We have bypassed the CSRF token validation by changing the request method. What we will do is we will copy this thing and we will craft a CSRF like POC to see how things would work. I click here paste and the request method is get, right? We will copy it and we will open the exploit server. We want this request to be delivered to the victim, and as it is a get request now, see the form method is get and it won't validate the CSRF token anymore. We want the email to be changed and we will send deliver exploit to victim. On doing this, the once the victim would open this, then his or her account email would be changed. This was a method of advanced CSRF exploitation. Alright, hope everything about CSRF is clear to you guys. In case you have any doubts, you can drop your comments onto the chat box. Thank you. In this section, we will talk about the meanings and different types of SQL injection attacks. So let's start with its meaning. SQL injection attacks are a type of flaw in the code of websites and web apps that allow cyber attackers to hijack back-end processes and access extract, delete confidential information from the database, right? As we know, SQL is a program to store the database, so this injection attack is named after the SQL injection attack, right? 27.8% of applications have SQL injection vulnerability on initial scan. So these are the types of SQL injection attacks. First one is error-based SQL injection attack, where we get a information about the SQL database from an error in the website. Then it's union based, then it's blind SQL injection, where we don't know what exactly is happening on the back end as there is no error. So blind SQL injection is further divided into two categories, which is boolean based and time based. We will see the practicals of all these types of SQL injection attacks in the further lectures. Thank you. This is a lab of SQL injection attack, where we can do the SQL injection to retrieve a lot of information from this web page. As you can see onto this web page, when I choose all, there are 4 3 12 items onto this all column, and when I go to food and drinks, it shows me 3. See, if any one of you are aware about SQL, it responds to where queries. Let's say when I click on all, it would say select star where category is all and blah blah product ID, right? So when we will intercept this response saying food and drinks, so it acts on the motive that it wants to get the filter of category food plus drinks. So for doing the SQL injection, we want to interrupt this. When I entered a backslash, it would get interrupted. See, it would get interrupted because the SQL injection, like the SQL carry, didn't allowed it to perform. Let's do it once again. To perform the SQL injection, what we need to do is we need to add a query saying colon single colon plus or plus 1 is equal to 1, and when we put these two dashes, it turns a statement to always true, right? When we forward this and everything we see, we forward, right? So on clicking food and drinks, we can see the product of each and every category. By doing this, you have earlier seen there were only 12 items. See, and now there are 4 and 4 and yeah, 20 items. So you retrieve the items which were not publicly available onto this web platform, but by doing the SQL injection, you made the server believe that you have to show all the items. Whether the statement is true and false, it doesn't matter. When we write 1 is equal to 1, it automatically implies the statement is true, and when we put these columns, it ignores the other queries after this statement. So this is an example of SQL injection where we can retrieve the items from the server by exploiting SQL. Hope you understand. So in this practical, we will do a SQL injection union attack to retrieve the data from other tables by using SQL queries. The SQL works in a way, let's say select star from accessories where product name is this, price this, and it shows us all the details. This is the way SQL works. So there are different columns under a product category. Let's say accessories has one table, clothing, shoes, accessories have other table, and there might be something which is not listed here, and we want to retrieve the content of that table without even knowing what the table is about. So how we can do this? We can do this by using SQL injection. So we will attack the category filter, and we will add this command which says union select null. that ignoring the value what it is, you have to select everything which comes in your way in a very simple sense. We'll click on forward and wait for things to error. So it says an internal server error. That means the command we give to this website is not appropriate. Now what we will do is we will skip one value. So what we will do, we will add one more null value into this payload to see, this is a union based attack to see whether it can retrieve after providing one more null value. We clicked on forward, it again says an internal server error. We go back to the home, and what we need to do is, let me choose a column of it. I am on to this particular column. What I need to do is, I would, let's say, delete this and add this payload. Forward, forward, still the internal server error keeps on coming. So for explaining you how things work, I would go on to the solution part. Okay, so it says use burp suit to intercept and modify the product category filter. Yeah, we did that. Modify the category parameter, giving it to the value this, we did that. Observe that an error occurs. Yeah, as you have seen, there are internal server error. So modify the category parameter to add an additional column containing a null value, right? Continue adding null values until the error disappears and the response includes additional content containing the null values. Now let me explain the meaning of this. We are basically hopping. We are hopping from column to column to search for things. Now how we can automate this process is, let me show you how. Take this to intruder, got it? Take this to intruder, and you have to add the payloads after this. So click on add, see, click on add and add your payloads. First, it is a simple one, click on add. You want to add another payload, add. You can automate this process like we did in the accesses thing. Okay, add everything, keep adding the columns till it stops displaying the error. Okay, you have to follow the exact same steps. Let me craft some more responses for you guys to well understand this. One more we will create, and we are hopping from column to column for the SQL injection to run, right? We are done with 5 things. So what I would do is, I would click on start attack. So let's see what error it gave us. Gave us a protocol error, a protocol error, a protocol error, a protocol error. That means we can't intrude this thing. So we have to manually test for everything. So let's do it. Let me intercept this. Let me intercept it. Right. So we will add after this manually. Let's say we have crafted this response. We will click on forward. It says an error. Okay. We have to keep doing this thing for things to work. Now we have tried it 1 time, 2 times, 4 times. So let's test it 3 times, because only third time is left. Click on forward, and yeah, you can see the hack worked. Let me turn it off, and yeah, it's solved. Now let me show you how it worked. We are able to retrieve the contents of other table which were not a part of this thing. So this is how you do a union based SQL injection. You have to hop from column to column because you don't know what column name it exactly opts for. Hope you understand. See you in the next lecture. So, in this module, we will learn about CORS, which stands for cross origin resource sharing. So let me simplify it. Let's say this is a client. It wants to get some x.css file from the origin, and the origin is domainx.com, and the domain x.com is going back to the client, and the client is sending this request get request, defining this as an header that the origin of gets x.css file is from the origin of domain x.com, and the domain y.com allows the access control allow origin to the client. Let me simplify it. Let's say this is a basic HTTP request and the origin is foo.example. Okay, foo.example allows the control and allows the origin of foo.example, and it allows the use of credentials to be true. In the practicals, when we will do the practicals, you will get to know what is the meaning of this thing, where there is an star onto this thing. Let's say access control allow origin star, that means it allows the access control to all the websites. This can be a very dangerous case. So taking this as an example, this is an example website.com. This request sent to the same origin, that is the origin server, but this website was vulnerable to CORS, which allows the request to be sent to an cross origin which is xyz.com, which is not the part or a subdomain or an API of this original website. In the due course of the practicals, you will get to know what CORS specifically means. So don't get panicked, as things takes time and bug hunting takes time for you to understand and how things work in practical life. So hello everyone, in this lab we will see how we can exploit the cross-origin resource sharing vulnerability with basic origin reflection. So I would click on my account and I would repeat you again, maintain a habit of clearing the HTTP history. This would make your process really simple. So I would provide the default username and password for this web application and click on login. Please see out here that a variety of HTTP responses are getting loaded. The first response is of a post request which allowed us to log in into this web application. The second is of my account details. The third one is interesting. We can see this particular thing got us the API key. So we will try to analyze this request further. So on sending this, we can see it allows the access to all origins. See, it's true. So what we need to test is that we have to make a custom origin. Let's say http abc.com. Got it? And it allows access to the abc.com. That means this website is vulnerable to CORS. Got it, everyone? So how we will exploit this particular thing? This is our lab URL. So we need to craft a response in order to get the credentials, of the victim. What we need to do is I will paste my unique lab URL, and as we all know, we need to get the account details. So we would copy the account details and I would paste here, right? I would paste here. So the response is ready, and let me alter it a bit. The response is ready. So we will copy this and go to the exploit server. Let me make it big. So yeah, what we will do is we would deliver the exploit to the victim. We delivered the exploit to the victim, right? And when the victim would open this exploit, as it is hosted on our website, so we will get the access logs, right? Clicking on that, let's go on to the latest logs. So these are the latest logs. See, here is a key which is this long is the key. So we will copy it till the end. We will copy this key till the end, and I am able to guess what could be I am able to guess what could be my response, or what could be the API key I am getting. But for showing it to you, what I need to do is I would copy it till the end, right? Till here, you have to open a decoder to URL, right? You have to open a decoder and paste this thing, decode. See, you got the API key. Copy this thing and submit it as a solution. Yeah, the lab is solved. When things seems too complex, that means that particular request is encoded. The username is administrator, the API key, and the session token. So that was all with the CORS. Thank you. This particular lab, we will use a SQL injection for bypassing the login. So, as we all know, our database contains all the usernames and passwords into it. What we need to do is, we know there is a user administrator and we don't know the password. When I give it the password ABCD, it gives me an error, right? So what I would do, I would give administrator colon, which disrupts the SQL query at the backend, and I give double dash that ignores everything and it says the statement is always true. On giving even the wrong password, it would log me in. This SQL injection vulnerability worked in some way. Let me explain. Let's say this is administrator. When I provided the colon at its end, it disrupted the SQL query thinking that the administrator is the original user, and on providing the dash, it says the statement is always true. SQL injection is a very vast topic which requires lots of practice. How you can practice SQL injection is, you can download CQLI labs onto your system. You can test for error based, blind based, time based. Okay, what other thing you can do is, you can download the SQL checker extension. Okay, SQL checker extension that gives you a different editor and validator, that gives you different dialog box over here to test for SQL injection things. It can be of various types. You can practice the SQL injection from the Portswigger labs, where there are a lot of labs, very complex labs, where you can get the admin password and the usernames by doing the union based, time based, as well as error based commands. Hope you understand. That was it for the SQL injection labs. In this section, we are going to learn about XML external entity attack, which stands for XXE. It is at the A4 level of the OWASP list. So, how it's done and how it's implemented, let me tell you with a very interesting example. Let's say a hacker identifies this web application to be weakly configured with XML parser, right? So the web application processes the malicious external entity request within the document type declaration. This web application, right? It retrieves the malicious activity from this hacker, and the XML processor validates the document type declaration, right? It validates the document type declaration onto this web application. Okay, so After this validation is done, the information goes from here and the validation goes from here to here, right? So this hacker server and web application are in constant connection with each other, right? So using this web application, the hacker wants to hack this target server. Okay, so the sensitive data is shared to the hacker. The information interchange between these two servers were direct, but the sensitive information ultimately got to the hacker. Let me explain it with some other flowchart. See, this is the hacker. He transmits the XML file, it passes through the firewall, the application, then an XXE request is generated. This is an XML parser. Okay, there are two entry points. This is internet and this is the intranet. So the code execution takes place here. The attacker executes a code which is a Linux code, that is etc password, to see the password of the users. So this is how an XXE attack works. We will understand about this attack more in the practicals. So, in the previous example, we looked at the CORS vulnerability when we provided the origin to be a website and it allowed the controls. In this case, we will take the origin as a null and see whether the website allows it or not. Then we will try to exploit the victim's credentials and get its API key. Let's wait for the website to be loaded. Till then, we'll take the response which we need to craft for getting the victim into being tracked. So this is the response we need and the website is loaded, and I would click on my account, and after doing that I would again recommend you to clear the history, which makes it pretty simple to analyze the website, right? Then we will provide the default credentials, which is Wiener and Peter, and click on login. You can see here a variety of HTTP requests got loaded. We will analyze these requests to see which is of our use. See, this particular request got the API key loaded. We'll take this to repeater as we previously did, and this time we would make the origin as null. That means we aren't providing any origin. See, it says allow access control allow origin null. That means it is vulnerable to null CORS as well. So what particularly we need to do is we need to copy our lab URL. This is the lab URL. We need to copy this thing and paste it here. We need to paste it here to get the account details. See, the account details, this thing of the victim. How we will do this? We will copy this, right? Then further moving, we will open the exploit server. When the victim would open this response, her API key would get embedded in the URL. We would click deliver exploit to victim, alright, and then we will access the logs. See, we got the log key. You have to copy it. You have to copy it till the end. You have to take till here only because it's the header. After this, you need to decode to URL, right? On doing this, you have to copy this, you have to write decode, and boom, you got the API key of the victim. This is when we use the origin as a null. So this was all for the CORS section. Hope you guys like it. Stay tuned for further sections. So hello everyone, this is a lab to exploit XXE using the external entities to retrieve files from the backend. So the hacker mentality says you need to clear the HTTP history for seeing the responses which occur at the backend. So we will test the normal functionality of the website by clicking on view details. When we click on it, there is an option known as the check stock. When we click on this thing, it returns me a value of 308, which means this raised a query for the backend which returns that this particular product is in a stock of 308 units in London. Alright, so we will analyze this request. There is an XML entity in this request, and the lab we are practicing for is for testing the XXE vulnerability. It defines the XML version and the encoding it's using. So we will craft a response. Let me elaborate this response. This response says we will test the document type as test, x entity as XXE, system, file etc password. So on passing this, it won't give an error because the product ID is 1, which already exists in the system. On giving a wrong product ID, as XXE semicolon send, it gives me the etc password, and we are able to retrieve the etc password file from the backend. Let me explain how this worked. We basically told the system then when the entity name would be XXE, you have to supply me back with a file from the system which is etc password. And as we all know, onto the Linux system, the etc password file is a very sensitive file. So this is how we do XXE vulnerability to retrieve files from the backend. Hope you understand. So, in this illustration, we will be looking at the vulnerability named as SSRF, server side request forgery. It is a kind of attack which manipulates the web server to send the traffic to a location which is of unintended use. Let me explain it with an example. The attacker sends an HTTP request with an SSRF payload to the web application. The server processes the SSRF request and triggers the malicious request to the internal servers. The internal servers then return the sensitive user data back to the web application, and thus flowing it to the hacker again, which results in the stealth of sensitive user data using an SSRF payloads. Let me give you another example. Let's say the hacker is sending a malicious payload to this server and using this server's IP address and its authenticity, it's trying to get the private data of this third server, and the logged in IP in the logs or in the IDS of this system would come of this particular website, whereas the attacker would not be recognized. So SSRF is a very dangerous vulnerability which sits on the priority 2 and priority 3 of the bug bounty programs. We will learn more about it in the practical examples. So, hello everyone. In this lab, we are going to practice the server side request forgery attack. We will go step by step to make you understand how it works. So, being a bug hunter, we want to get the admin privileges of this particular account. We know when we will put a backslash onto this URL and type admin, that might go on to an admin account which we are not able to access or get into. But we will try this. When we write in admin, it won't allow us the access to get onto the admin account. See, admin interface only available if logged in as administrator or if requested from loopback. This gives us a hint that we can use the SSRF attack to log in as administrator or delete any user. So let's see how we will do this. For doing this, I would recommend to clear the HTTP history first. Once we clear it, we will go to the view details section. And there is a functionality known as check stock. Let me clear it before we do any work so as to get a better understanding how we need to exploit it. Once I click on the check stock, there are a variety of responses it loaded. This is the first response. So, this is the stock API. API is a link which forces the website to see what is the stock of this particular product ID. Now, think logically what we need to access. We don't know the IP address of this particular web application, but we know the admin users can log in into a particular website using the admin panel and using the local host. So what we would do is we would take this request to the repeater to study it further. So it is in an encoded form, so we would delete this, and in place of this we would put in this. Let me elaborate it and explain it to you. What we are trying to do is we are using this particular request of the website itself to load a admin panel using an API. When we click on send and we render this response, we are able to see this thing. Now we can do this per task. We are into the admin panel. You can click on to the show response in browser, copy, and you can click on paste. See, you got the admin panel. Either you can delete it from here, but in some cases you are only able to use the admin panel using this code. So how can you delete the username from here? So what we will do is we will put a backslash. What we need to do is we need to delete this thing. We will write delete. So where the users is equal to Carlos, right? You can access this thing here. So it says missing parameter username. That means it doesn't use the parameter users, it uses the parameter username, where the username is Carlos. 302 found, and when we refresh this, it says congratulations, because the Carlos user is deleted by using this particular request. You can manually delete it from here also, right? So this is an example of basic SSRF attack where we use the response of the website itself to look out for an admin panel which is hosted locally onto this website. We will talk more about it in the coming examples. So in this lab, we will talk about how to do an advanced SSRF to locate the admin panel onto a particular website. Let's see how we need to do this. Firstly, we will try to get access of the admin panel by changing the directory. Once we change the directory, we will try this thing. It says not found, that the admin directory is not directly available. We don't have the right credentials to be supplied out here for the demo account. So the hacker mentality says test everything you see in your way. So what we will do is we will clear the HTTP history out here. We'll clear the history, right? And we see a variety of products out here. We will click on view details. Once we clicked on the view details thing, what we need to do is we will scroll it down and see there is a check stock functionality. We will click on it and we can see there is a parameter known as stock API. It gives us an IP address. When you hold it, you will see a lot of information about it. It says this is the IP address 192.168.0.1, and the port is 8080. So, many of you will think, why can't we access this particular API by using the previous method? Let me test this thing out. What we did previously was localhost, but this time the admin panel isn't really hosted on the local host. Okay, so when we do this, it says a 500 an internal server error. So we know a specific IP address this website is working on. It is possible that the admin panel is present on to some another subnet. What we will do is we will write 192.168.0.1 port number 8080 and we want to find the admin panel. Okay, so we can do this process manually or we can automate this. We can change this manually, but it would take a lot of time to do this thing. So what we need to do is we would send this to intruder and clear all the previous payloads and just set the payload to this last octet. And then we will go to the payloads, we will use numbers, we want this thing to go up to 255 and the step to be 1, and we will start the attack. What it will do, it will change the octet numbers, and once we get a response 200, that means we find the right octet which contains the admin panel itself. So it tested for us till 45. See, we got a 200 response. That means we got the right subnet the admin panel is located on. We will send this to repeater, and once we send it, it says 200 and we are able to get an admin panel. We will click response to browser, copy, and we will open it here. Always remember, the show response in browser URL would copy in a Firefox which is configured with the burp suite. You can delete it from here or you can delete it in the exact same way you did last time. See, we are not able to delete it directly from here because we aren't the real owners of this thing. So I have told you how we can delete this. We can write admin. What we basically want to do is we will write delete where the username is equal to Carlos. Send, we'll click on send. Congratulations, you have deleted the user Carlos. We won't be able to see the changes because we are using the SSRF vulnerability to get into the admin panel and using his privileges. This was all for SSRF, which stands for Server Side Request Forgery. Hope you guys get it. Thank you. Welcome back to another section of command injection. So, command injection is a type of attacking vector where we inject arbitrary OS commands onto a vulnerable web application to retrieve data from it. See, remove directories, remove functions, kill a process. So we provide arbitrary commands onto a OS system running on the web application. Let me explain it to you with a very interesting example. So the hacker sets up a listener onto this PC, okay? Then it pings the local host of the web application and sets a netcat and a port number onto this and reply on the local host. Therefore, the arbitrary command is thus executed by the server and the outpost is sent to the attacker. Attacker gets the reverse shell. How he got a reverse shell? Because he injected a OS command over here and set up a port where he can listen to and reply to the local host. Let me explain it in further detail. Let's say this is an attacker he wants to attack this web server. What exactly he would do is he would target this web application to run its arbitrary OS commands to get access to this web server. He would use this web application to provide some malicious payloads or files to this web server which when executed would give a reversal to the hacker. So, in the examples, you would learn more what and how OS command injection basically works. Welcome everyone. This is a lab of OS command injection. So, we will start penetrating it. So, as always, we will clear the history and we would click on the view details section, and till now we only got one response which is of no use to us. Now, what we will do, we will explore more of it, and here is a column known as check stock. When we would click on it, it generates another HTTP request saying the product ID and the store ID. So, one by one, we will try these parameters. So, we will test this parameter by giving a Linux command who am I. Right? When we gave this command, it gave me this thing. It gave me home Peter. That means we are able to know that this is the user and user of that Linux machine which this website is hosted onto. We can write anything onto this, any Linux command onto this, like pwd. See, this is the present working directory. If we want to go to the home directory, we would do this command and it says permission denied. So we can try to look into the etc password file, but we won't be able to do that because we are stuck in some directory where the product ID and the store ID are stored in. So we were able to do the command injection by using a parameter. We will learn more about it in the subsequent illustrations. So, hello everyone, this is an advanced example of a blind OS command injection with output redirection. How we would do this? This says this lab contains a blind OS command injection onto the vulnerability feedback form. We know that the feedback form is vulnerable. What we would do is, before doing anything, we would clear the HTTP history so that we can later look at the response. So we would write here ABC, email as DEF, subject as WEF, and message as something. We would intercept this request and submit feedback. It says supply the email in a desirable format. We would do it and we would change this email to this file. Let me explain you what we exactly did. I appended this command to say who am I and var www output.txt. So we are injecting this particular text file onto that particular directory. So we will forward this and it says thank you for submitting feedback. Alright, so what we need to do this, we will go back to the home page and go to the HTTP history and click onto this thing. So we see a variety of responses we got. So on analyzing it, we would try, see, this file name is getting fetched from the backend and we injected a new file onto the backend. So what we will do, we would take this to repeater and the file name was output.txt. When we did this, it says Peter Sateku.
Now you guys won't understand what is the exact meaning of this file. Let me explain it to you. We write the command as who am I. On supplying that command, when I wrote who am I, it gave me the answer of who am I onto this output.txt file. And Peter Setuke is the answer of who am I. This is how we use the OS command injection to get the sensitive information into an output file and then viewing that file. This was all for the OS command injection.
So hello everyone, the next vulnerability we are talking about is directory traversal. Directory traversal is a type of web security vulnerability which allows you to view arbitrary files over a web application. Let me explain you with a very interesting example. Let's say this is a website abc.com. The file name is index.php. So the index.php file is stored in a directory known as Raj. We inject the payloads over here to move back into the directories and view files which we don't have the access to. Let me explain it better. So this is the root directory. The root directory is further divided into the etc, home, progety and the root. The etc file contains the most important file which is shadow and password. So in a very simple sense you can understand the moving back of the directories for viewing arbitrary files of the host of the web application is known as directory traversal. You will understand more about it when we will do the practicals. In this illustration, we will do the practical of the directory traversal. So let's load the lab. It says this lab contains a file path traversal vulnerability in the display of product images. So we already know where the vulnerability lies. So we will wait for the website to get loaded and we will clear the HTTP history for a better understanding of things. We would click on view details and as you can see there are a lot of parameters. This is the first parameter. This is the first parameter, product ID. We can test this product ID thing, but the lab says you can display the product images, like the product image functionality is vulnerable. Now how to test it? Open this thing into a new tab. You open this onto the new tab, intercept this response. Intercept is on. See, the file name is 36.jpg. So let's take this to repeater. So for this lab to get solved, we want to retrieve the etc password. So we would type etc password and click next. It says no such file. This command shows us that this file is not into this particular directory. For finding this file, we have to alter our response. We will move back one directory. Still it says there is no such file. We will move back one more directory. We can move back in directories by putting dot dot and slash. We will move one more directory. See, we got the etc password file. This is how we will solve the lab. The lab is solved. You can automate this process by using intruder and taking the payloads from the internet and exploiting it. This was all for the first lab of directory traversal. Hello everyone. In this particular section, we will be looking at the access control vulnerabilities. You guys might be wondering, what is the meaning of access control vulnerabilities? It's nothing different. It simply means you can access a directory, a file, a system you don't have the ownership of. Let me explain it you with an example. If the user is authenticated and authorized, access is granted. He is a legitimate user. Access control denies access. This is a user too which don't have the access to this file. If a hacker by using any unauthorized way or a method can get the access of this file, this means access control vulnerability is present. Let's take another example. Let's say it's a user A, it's a user B, it's a user C. If I can escalate my privileges from a normal user to an admin user, the access control vulnerabilities can be in two ways. It can be done vertically as well as horizontally. If I am able to escalate my privileges, access control vulnerabilities are present. The practicals of this vulnerability are very interesting, and stay tuned for the practicals. You will understand the flow of these vulnerabilities in the due course. Hello everyone. In this illustration, we will test the unprotected admin functionality with unpredictable URL. So, it says the lab has an unprotected admin panel. It's located in an unpredictable location, but the location is disclosed somewhere in the application. Solve the lab by accessing the admin panel and using it to delete the user Carlos. Okay, so it's a very interesting lab. So, I would firstly suggest you to look for the robots.txt file to gain any information. The robots.txt file is not found. So what we will do it, we would we would test the page source. What we are looking for, we are looking for an admin panel. These two things you should test at first. I write admin and it says let me go back, and yeah, here you can see something that admin is false, and this gives me some kind of directory. I don't know whether it's true or not. So I took out that directory and pasted it here, and I entered it. It says it's not found. Why it says not found? Because the double colon is used. I would click enter, and yeah, the admin panel wasn't protected by any password. The directory was hidden in the page source itself, and once I would delete the user Carlos, the lab is solved. This was the basic example of a access control vulnerability. The next example would be very advanced, so stay tuned. Hey guys, in this particular video, we will do an advanced testing of the access control vulnerabilities. Let me turn on the lab. It says it's only accessible to the logged in users with a role ID of 2. Okay, so we know the login panel would be only accessible to the people of role ID 2. So we don't need to test for the robots.txt file or the page source of this thing. So we have the default credentials of this website, which is Wiener and Peter. So before testing anything, as always, as I suggest, clear the HTTP history, because HTTP history says a lot about a website. So I would write Wiener and Peter. Login. We have tested one functionality and we would analyze the response. The first response is of no use to us, and the other response is only username Wiener, password is Peter, but there is no such column as a role ID. No worries, a hacker mind says test everything you see in your way. So there is an update email functionality. We would test this too. I want to change my email. I would write update email, and a number of HTTP requests are generated. We would open this one, and as you can see, on generating this request, we got this response with a role ID of 2. Now let's take this to repeater. We would supply it again. We know on passing this updation request, we get the role ID of 2. So how can we get the role ID of 2? It's very simple. When we want something into the response, so we need to add it in the request as well. See, I put a comma out there, a role ID, and I want it to be 2. as we have been already told that the admin panel can be only accessed by people with the role ID of 2. Once I click on send, the role ID is 2. No admin panel is out here. Once I refresh this page, the admin panel is here because I modified my role ID to 2 using this update email dialog box. Once I delete the user Carlos, the lab is solved. This was an advance of access control vulnerabilities where we escalated our privileges by using a vulnerable functionality. Thank you. Hey everyone, now we are going to talk about broken access control vulnerabilities. What does that mean? So, this is a normal user of the website. It gives a request to the identifying server, and if he is the right person to access these things, then he has access to all the mail servers, the database servers, and the internal web server. Now, the broken access control means a hacker without the ACL connection is able to access all these things. This is a normal service and this is the abnormal service. Let's understand it better. An attacker is able to view the login, the admin, the home web pages using the illegal admin request. We will learn more about it when we will do the practicals. I try to keep things crisp and short so that you can get an understanding and your time don't get wasted. That's my way of teaching and I hope you guys might like it. In case you have any doubts, you can ping me onto my mail or you can use the Udemy support. Thank you. Hello everyone. This is a lab of BAC. BAC is a very wider topic which includes authentication and authorization bypass also. So in this lab we are going to do a 2FA simple bypass. So for this purpose we'll access the lab. We have the default credentials, right? We have the default credentials which is Wiener and Peter, and we need to bypass the 2FA for this victim's account. So for this purpose we need to clear the HTTP history, which is the foremost step you need to do, and we have an email client. This is basically a demo of your real email address where you will get a two-factor code or something, right? So go to the my account thing, go to the my account, let it load and delete everything out here and supply the default credentials. It's Wiener and it's Peter. Login. Okay, so it would ask me for a 4-digit security code. Let's refresh this to see. Yeah, the 4-digit security code is 0283. We would supply this, login. Now we did all the steps on our behalf. Now we would interpret the request. This is a request of the login when we provided the credentials. This is a request of the two-factor authentication. This is a request of the two-factor authentication. And moving down. When we provided it with 0283 MFA, it shows us this response. Now we would take this response to show in the browser. We would take this response to the browser and we will try to analyze the URL. It says my account. That means after providing the right 2FA, the URL is my account. So we will try the same thing with the victim account. Okay, we will try the same thing with the victim. We have the victim's username and password. The victim user and password is Carlos Montoya. We would write Carlos and the password would be Montoya. See, it would send a 2FA code onto the real email of this user. But we know when we provide the right 2FA code, the URL changes to my account. So the lab is solved. In some cases, this won't be this easy to do a 2FA bypass. You need to see the request and the response to study what basic tokens it's using to authenticate the process, or you need to brute force these things. You can practice all these labs from the port swigger. In case you face any difficulty, you can ping me up. This was the basic lab of a broken access control. Thank you. Everyone, in this I am going to show a real life POC which I hunted, but unfortunately I got a duplicate out of it. That means some other person have reported this bug already. So this is a company where I provided an email address which I don't have access to, right? And on giving an email address, it gave the OTP onto this email address, but I don't have the access to this particular email address, so I give it the wrong OTP. In the worst scenario, the OTP can't be 000. So what I did, I turned my burp on, I intercepted this response and clicked on submit. Critically analyze the request. It has an email ID that's not mine and the OTP. What I did, I requested the response to this request. Okay, I requested the response to this request and clicked it as forward. The response says 404, obvious not found, and wrong OTP because I provided a wrong OTP. So I have tested this website thoroughly. I know what response it gives back to me when I provide a right OTP to it. So this response is from some other like testing account. I know when the OTP is validated, it gives back a email ID, the state that's OTP validated, auth token null. So I use this response. I use this response and put the previous mail onto it to validate the OTP. Then I clicked on forward all the requests you need to forward, and then yeah, you can set the password and the email address is taken over. This is an example of BAC. Hope you like it. Thank you. So, our new section is information disclosure, issues and attacks. So, most of you would think, what is the meaning of information disclosure? In a very keen and simple words, any information that is of some value or is precious to the organization, or it could potentially harm the web application either monetary wise or status wise, or it could stop the functioning, affect the functioning of that web application, is a information disclosure. If you got any file which could rampant the company's reputation, it could affect them monetary on a monetary terms, and if you get any of those files, that's an information disclosure. For example, if you get the password of this database, you can steal all the data. If a hacker gets the source code, he could disrupt all the website. So any information which is of some value to a web application is termed as an information disclosure. The attacker can escalate his her privileges from the information being disclosed by the vulnerability. He could do a remote code execution, a full website takeover even, by using this information disclosed. We will learn more about it in the next practical sessions. Welcome back again, everyone. This is a basic lab of information disclosure and error messages. This says this lab's verbose error messages reveal that this is using a vulnerable version of a third party framework, right? So it says on when it gives an error, it tells us about some particular information about the website and how we can get that information by providing some URL that don't exist. Okay, so it's not giving a specific information, so we will see how we can do this. It says while the burp running, open one of the product pages, okay, and request now keep changing the value of the product id to a non-integer data such as a string, okay. So on giving an error messages, on giving some error messages, it reveals some information about the web page. See, we would take this response, and we let me get it back. I would write ABCD. Got it? When I write ABCD, it gave an internal server error and it shows me Apache Struts 2 2.3 point something version. So it tell me the internal server version and I could write the version and the exploit, right? And an exploit is already available for this version, so it's very easy for me to exploit it because it only gave me an error about how we can hack this. It himself told me about that this particular web application is using a vulnerable version and we can directly exploit it by using any terminal, using the MSF console, and the CVE is present for it. So this is how information disclosure can be very dangerous for the web application. Hello everyone, this is an advanced type of information disclosure and how we can use that information disclose to do the authentication bypass. Let's see. So on this particular application, we want to get into the admin panel. So for doing that, we would write slash admin. See, on doing this, it gave us an information admin interface only available to local users. Now it is an information disclosure, but we can't report it because we haven't exploited it yet. There is a rule that you can't tell things you didn't exploit it. It doesn't mean that you will do the remote code execution on the server and then tell the authorities that RC is possible. I don't mean that. At least you have some POC that how you use this system or how you use this information disclosed to escalate your privileges. Now I would say here that I can't get a bounty out of this message, but what if I use this information to do the authentication bypass? How would I do this? I know this gave me a information that it can be only accessed by the local users. So how a website denotes that this particular user is of local, and we all know that the local users have an IP 127.00.1, right? So we would turn the intercept as on. I would refresh it, and on to analyzing this thing, I would send this to repeater. On sending it, it says unauthorized access, right? It says an unauthorized access and we can't get it, but I can't see anything that could tell the interface that I am not the local user. So let's use a method of sending information, trace. It is an HTTP method like post, get, put, right? We would place trace. On doing this, we come to know about a lot of information about this website, and it says X custom IP authorization. This is my IP. Now I come to know that this is authenticating me on the basis of this. Now how we can do this is I can add a custom header of the local host out here 127.0.0.1 and I would say get, right? On doing this, I get a response okay, and I would refresh it, but this can't be loaded because it was in response to this particular request. I would say show response in browser, copy and paste. See, I got the admin panel and Carlos. So you got a better understanding how I escalated my privileges So you might be thinking why I am not able to delete the user Carlos, because you have to be in that authorization mode. You have to be in the localhost mode to do the activities of the admin. I will show you how you can do this. Let's say I am into this admin panel, okay? So go on to the proxy, intercept on Carlos, add a custom header. You can automate this process as well. You can automate this process as well, but I would prefer to do it manually. Let me get things into place. I would add a custom header out here which says, let me drop it. Yeah, let me drop it. Let me start it from scratch. When I refresh it, refresh, okay. So I want to delete this user Carlos, and I would click on delete, and I want to add a custom header of the local user and click on forward. Once I forwarded it as a local user, the lab is solved because the website believes that I am the real admin and I can do any stuff. So I escalated my privileges from a P5 bug, which won't give me a bounty, to a P1 bug. This is how you hunt big, think big. Thank you. Hey everyone, we are back again with a new video. So this video or section is about the business logic flaw. So I would explain you what basically is the meaning of a business logic flaw. I would explain this bug with an example. This is a very famous website of MobiQuick, and you can see the total amount as 239, right? And onto doing some hacking activities and tampering the responses, I was able to get this recharge of 239 in rupees 10. So business logic flaw in simple word means when you are able to manipulate the logic applied onto that particular website in the favor of yourself. It can be regarding anything. It can be the quantity, it can be the price, it can be the booking amount, or it can be either the username and password sometime of the users. Right? So logic flaw means there is some loophole onto the application which disrupts your logic flaw applied on the website. You will get a better understanding of this particular bug when we will do the practicals. Hello everyone, this is a lab where we will exploit the business logic vulnerabilities. So let's take a look at this lab. It says the lab doesn't adequately validate user input. You can exploit a logic flaw in its purchasing workflow to buy items for an unintended price. To solve the lab, buy a lightweight LTT leather jacket. Okay, we got a basic understanding how we will need to approach this target. We will access the lab. And we have a default credentials out here. Let's wait for the lab to get loaded, and the lab is loaded. Firstly, what we will do, we will log in into the account with the default credentials we are provided with. So we would write Wiener and we would write Peter out here and click on login, right? Once we clicked on login, we see the store credit is $100. That means the credit of our account is 100. Let's go back to the home page, and to solve this lab we need to buy this jacket for an unintended price. Let's add this jacket to the cart. Okay, so it's added. Till now we performed a variety of tasks. Now we need to see how we can get into this. It's a CSRF token for the login, and we need a response where we can temper the price or something. We can temper the price or something of that thing. Cart price, yeah. So here you can see a price that is, it's said to be 133700. and it says 302 found. Okay, we got a basic understanding how we need to approach things. We will remove this thing from the cart. We are just trying to approach it in a good manner. What we need to do is we will click on view details, and let me place it side by side so that you guys can see how things happen. I would click on intercept on and add to cart, and here is a price. I know the store credit is 100, so I would alter the price as 100. Okay, I would forward this, forward, forward, and intercept off. See, I got the jacket for just rupees 1. I can place the order and the lab is solved. This is an example of business logic vulnerabilities. I showed you this demo in the starting, but I skipped it. So I would explain you this particular thing, how it exactly worked. See, the amount of this recharge is rupees 239. I turned the intercept as on. I turned the intercept on, and then I clicked on make payment, and my burp started intercepting request. I will wait for the request till the price request comes forward of us. Forward, forward. See, the amount column started coming. So firstly, I will alter the amount here. Okay, I would alter the amount here. There can be multiple price requests going to the server to basically safeguard from hackers. So I would click, I would I want to see the response of this request as well. I would click on forward, and this is the response of that request, which says my wallet balance is 0, the discounted price for this good is 0, the wallet amount 0, and everything. So I would say the balance is 200 and the wallet amount is also 200, and I would make the necessary amendments and click on forward. It again says I told you that there can be double protection. So again the request come in front of me. I would change the amount to 10. I would change the amount to 10. Then click on forward, intercept off, and it's loading. Boom, you can see you have to pay the balance amount of only rupees 10. So in the similar manner, you can look for various responses that contain the amount, right? That contains the amount to be paid. Let me show you one very interesting thing. I went to mystery rooms. If you guys might be familiar with it, I want to went to mystery rooms, and I did their online booking in a very low price. You see, I I booked the thing in rupees 1, but I paid 1800 at the counter. But this was a bug onto their system through which I was able to get an official mail from their site saying that the total amount needed to be paid is just rupees 1. So in this similar manner, you can look out for business logic vulnerabilities. That was it for the section. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. So we are gonna discuss the OAuth vulnerabilities in this section. So before describing this very complex chart, let me tell you what OAuth means. Let's say you want to log in into a website. Instead of creating a new login, you choose to log in with some Google, Facebook. So that type of authentication is under the category of OAuth authentication, where you choose a third party authenticator for helping you to get into that particular account. So let me explain this process with the example of this flowchart. This is a user. He opens this web browser. Okay, he navigates to the web app. He navigates to the web app, and it gets redirected to the Azure. Okay, onto that platform. It can be Facebook, it can be Gmail. The user enter its credential. This request comes back to the web browser. Okay, the web browser
Then on the validation of that request issues tokens. Okay, the tokens are issued, right? Then it redirects access token to the web app, the previous web app, and you are able to see the website you are trying to approach. Let me explain. Let's say this is the first website, right? This is you. Okay, this is you on the right side. You want to access this website onto the left, so you would choose a Gmail, a Facebook, and you will fill the credentials of that Gmail account. On the validation of your credentials, Gmail would create a token for the website to tell that yes, this person is legit, please allow him to the website. That is OAuth authentication, right? So we will learn about its practicals in the next videos. Greetings to everyone from my side. So this is the most complex thing we are gonna do. This is the OAuth authentication. So we will do this very complex practical, very slowly, very calmly, to make you understand each and everything. I would go step by step so that no point should be left and you should be clear with every point I am doing. So I would click on my account and I am, uh, let's say, I have my default credentials. Okay. So this, consider this as something Gmail, Facebook, like it's a demo thing. So clear the HTTP history. When we clear it, we have to provide the default credential, that is Wiener and Peter. Login, don't save. Okay, and when I click on continue, it provides a token to the original website for redirecting me into my own account. Everything is done till now. Everything is done. Okay, so our thing arises that we have to look out for the response. We will start from here. We will only look for the responses which contain some parameter. This is the first response where we specify the ID. We specify the ID. All right. Then moving downwards, it generates a token. It generates a token, and in response, it gives back a ID. Moving downwards, it's an OAuth callback. Moving more downwards. So we come across this thing. So the only thing that grabs my attention is this particular token. So how we would take advantage of this token? Let me go let you through the tutorial. We have seen the HTTP history. It says look at the authorization request which says get auth. Okay, let's see this. So it says get auth and the client ID. Get auth client ID, which one it could be? OAuth flaw. So looking for it, right? So it says the client application receives some basic information about the user with OAuth service, if then logs the user in by sending a post request, right? It sends a post request back to the response saying, right, send the post authenticate request to the burp repeater. The post authenticate request, this request which I told you I find very interesting, I would take this request to the repeater. We take this request and it says change the email to this email, like our victim email. This is our victim email, and what we need to do is we need to replace our email with the victim email, and we'll pass this. It says an internal server error. Why it says, let me see. It says an internal server error. I don't know, there may be a syntax problem or something. Oh,
Let me take this again to the repeater. It shouldn't say like this. Yeah, now it's fine. When I send this, it says a 302 found. That's good. So what we need to do is, I would say show response in browser. I would show the response in browser, and yeah, we will click on my account and we are logged into the account of Carlos. So let me explain you again. This was the token generated as OAuth. The website didn't validate the token again, and it recognized us on the basis of this email only. When we changed the email, it logged us into the account of Carlos. So this is an example of OAuth vulnerability. Hope you understand. We will do another case of it to get you more clarity. Hello everyone, hope you are doing good. And this is a very advanced practical of OAuth. It's gonna be tricky, so I would try to do it slow and in a very composed way in order you can get a better understanding what exactly is happening, right? So you have to log in using your default username and password with Wiener and Peter. You have to attach your social media profile. The credentials are given over here. I have already done that, so I won't repeat that step again. Okay, we would log out of this, and this time what I would do, I would go to my account, and I won't log in using these credentials. What I would do instead is, I would clear this history, and I would click on login with social media. And these are a variety of steps it followed for logging me in into the website. And it gives a code which is the authenticator to for the website to tell specifically that this person is legit, please allow him into the website. And yeah, and stuff like that. Okay, so what exactly we need to do out here is, you have to uh, let's start. So I will tell you how what we need to do. We get the client ID. This is the client ID, right? And there is a redirect URI function. And we what we need to do is, we need to copy the URL. Let me tell you how we can hack this thing. Let's go to my account and I would log out. This would be tricky part, please see very carefully. When I would click on my account, it would give me an option to log in with username and password and log in with social media. I would turn the intercept as on. I would click on social media. This particular code is of no use to me. After this code, it would give me a authentication code. This code is of very use to me. I would copy this URL and I would paste it here. I got the code out here, and we don't want to forward this code to the server. We would drop this request. As soon as we drop this request, we would intercept off and back, right? So how we need to craft a response to do the OAuth authentication bypass. So this is an example where we need to create an iframe. We need to create an iframe. How an iframe works, we will go to the exploit server, and this is a email server acting as we would get the person tricked into a phishing link. We need to provide our lab ID. So lab ID is here. Lab ID is here. We would provide our lab ID till here. Okay, we would provide a lab ID till here. And the stolen code means the code which we dropped and didn't allowed the website to use. This is the code. This is the code. Okay, this full code we will paste out here. Okay, we will paste out here and we will deliver the exploit to the victim. Once we deliver this exploit to the victim, we will log in with the social media profile. Continue, and we get the admin panel. See, it behaves like the administrator gets fizzed into this link. It he or she clicked on this iframe, and we logged in into his account using this unique code. And yeah, we will delete the car loss, and the OAuth authentication bypass is done. Hope you understand. Thank you everyone. I'm back again with a new video, and this section is gonna about the file upload vulnerability. In a very simple way, I would tell you what's the meaning of this. A file upload vulnerability means you are able to upload a malicious file which could help you in getting the access of that server or that web application. For like doing a pen test or finding a vulnerability, there can be many ways. You can get a reverse shell from that website by like uploading a PHP file. You can upload a type of file which is being restricted by the web application. So these all are a kind of file upload vulnerabilities. See, a vulnerability is specifically a thing which is not permitted by the web application but by any malpractices or functions. You are able to do that thing, that is known as a vulnerability. What this vulnerability exactly means, you will get to know with the preceding examples. Thank you. Hello everyone, hope you all are doing good, and this is your last section for the course. Thanks for watching the course till now, and don't forget to leave your worthy reviews after the end of this course. This is the lab we are going to do where we can get a reversal while uploading a file. So we will see how we can exploit this thing up. So this is my account page, right? What I would do, I would clear the HTTP history before doing anything, right? So we would click on browse. I will upload any image. Let's say this. I would upload an image out here, and I would click on upload. And what exactly it does is it it uploads my image. It uploads my image, right? See, it uploads my image onto here. What we can do is how we can fetch this image. We will click on here, and we will click on apply. See, this is the file for fetching the image. We will take this to repeater. Okay, and what we will do is we will make a PHP file. I have already done that. So untitled.php, it's for getting the contents of home Carlos secret. As it told us in the very starting, we have to get the contents of this directory. And what I need to do is I would upload this thing up. Yeah, it's uploaded. So for getting the contents of this, I know that this is it's in the avatar directory. So instead of that png file, I would write the name of that my file which I uploaded, untitled dot php, right? And I would click on send. And yeah, I got the key that we were looking for, and I would submit this key out here. And okay, the lab is solved. This is how we use a file upload vulnerability for getting a remote code execution. Thank you. So, thanks for watching the course till now. So, this is a bonus section which I thought to prepare for you guys. This would be really beneficial. So, the topic is how you need to choose your targets. So, there are various bug bounty platforms. As let's say there's Bugcrowd. Okay, there's Bugcrowd, and there are HackerOne and Zoho and Synac. There are a lot of like bug bounty programs, and if you are trying to do things from these platforms, so I would tell you a few tips how you can start, right? I'm not much active here, so I will tell you a few tips how you can do or start things with. So firstly, these are the responsible disclosure programs, and these are the programs which are offering some bounties. Let's say this program. And So these are the priority levels, and if you find something onto their app in this level, they would award you this. If you find there in their web application and the scope is these, so I would recommend always choose a target which have lots of things to test from. Okay, you have a large scope, you have a greater chances. Like here people have find out vulnerabilities, they pay only for the unique vulnerabilities. It is broken authentication, as I've told you in the session. There's sensitive data exposure and cross-site scripting. Okay, unvalidated redirects and forwards, security misconfiguration. Okay, so this is one way of doing the bug bounty. The other way is there is a site known as open bug bounty. You can also choose programs out from here. Mostly the programs out here are like free of cost, they don't provide, but sometimes these programs pay you as well. And what majorly approach I use is I write the docs for bug bounty. Okay, you need to get the docs. You can go on to the first website and you will get the docs.txt. Like choose a doc from here. This doc means you can do the bug bounty on the responsible disclosure sites of New Zealand, UK. So these websites are less are a websites which have less competition, so you have greater chances of getting a bounty as compared to those previous platforms which I discussed you with. Okay, always choose a website which have lots of things to explore from and have a larger scope. So this is how you need to choose your target, and choose your target from a website which have less traffic. Okay, less traffic, less competition, and the more chances you are of securing a bounty. Always keep a track of what new websites are being launched so that you can tell them their security vulnerabilities before anyone else could do. So this was a bullet tip from my side. Thank you. So I want you guys to build a mentality for hunting back. Let me explain you how. Let's say you discovered an excess. Try to use that excess for escalating your priority level. As I've showed you in the demonstration, I found a small information disclosure and I escalated that information disclosure to a P1 bug. Okay, don't go for small bounties. Let me give you an example. There are two kinds of people, one is pro and one is new. After this course, you are gonna be pro as well, and if you do practice, okay. So, if you are new into this thing, directly report the P3 P4 bugs. No need to take a risk, okay. After reporting them, you can try to escalate your privileges, but in case you have a confidence of yourself that you can escalate the privileges, don't disclose the bug to the company, because they would connect it with the high priority levels, and before hitting a bounty, that bug could be fixed by the company, which could cause you a opportunity loss kind of in commerce terms. Okay, so always try to escalate small bugs into high priority level bugs. So this was a again a bonus tip from my side. Hope you enjoyed the course, and thank you. In this section I would tell you how to make a perfect bug report. So I would discuss in it in a very like simple way. Okay, so let me take an example of, let's say, this. Okay, firstly you have to give the URL where you find the bug. Okay, then you have to give the overview of the vulnerability. You can take this overview from Google, and you have to tell the company what business impact is there according to this vulnerability. In my case, I had discovered a security misconfiguration which is known as email triggering or node rate limiting. Then you have to give the business impact and the steps to reproduce, how you reproduced this bug. Okay, you have to give a step by step explanation how you found that bug. Then you have to attach the screenshots in case you got some video recording or screen recording, so you have to attach that. This is the most basic way of doing things. Okay, this is an IDOR vulnerability. You have to give the description, impact, step to reproduce, and POC. Okay, indirect object reference vulnerability. So this is the way of making an effective report And I would tell you a small thing how you have to follow up on triage. Let's say I have reported it onto their website. It asked me, this was my report which says description, impact, steps to reproduce, and POC. I attached the POC, and you have to do a proper follow up. The company officials asked me, thanks for the report, did you manage to change the password and take over the account? Then you have to tell them, yes, that I was able to change the password. Then they would give you a demo account, you have to do that, and yeah, you will get the bounty. This is an effective way of report making and following up on the triage things. Hope you guys understand, and thank you. So, thank you for taking up my course of the bug bounty and VAPT. And I want to say something. This is my personal experience that hacking is a field which requires a lot of patience. It was a time when I couldn't hunt for bugs and I wasn't getting a job, and everything was so sore and uncertain. But what my father has always told me, and I would tell it in a Hindi language. He always said, "You आप अपना कर्म करो and wait for things to happen." And that single word changed my course of life. And my family has supported me a lot into this journey, and they always told me one thing, that hard work never gets waste, right? Karma hits you back. All you need to do is be persistent, and you have all the skills inside you. You just need to inherit them, you need to polish them, right? uh, Consider yourself as a diamond ring. The more you polish it, the more it will shine. And don't forget to leave your worthy reviews onto my course, and I will try to make an advanced version of this course if you guys give it a lovely response. In case you have any queries, you can ping me onto my mail. I have already provided that. You can contact me with on my LinkedIn, and you can use the Udemy support. And thank you for taking the course. I hope I have trained you well, and I shared all my experience and expertise with you guys. And I want everyone, every single one of you, to become a professional bug hunter and reach a new heights onto your career. Thank you, and have a nice life. Thank you.